got five stories to tell. I see both sides like Chanel. See on both.
Hey guys, welcome back to an Industry Leader interview. We're back again and we've got an unbelievably inspirational man today, and that is Jay Allen. An absolute inspiration. He's served 12 years in the British Army as an advanced trauma medic, and sadly by a number of incidents he was discharged from the army. He has now picked himself up and he went into the business world, hit the business world from battlefield to boardroom, as they say in the book. And he's now a motivational speaker, which I've actually been to when he was taught. It's amazing. And he's also a winner of the Global Entrepreneur Award twice in a row. And it's really funny how he won the second one with actually beating them with the paid ads, which is obviously, we as digital marketers, that's just, I was so amazed when I heard that in your talk. It's outstanding. Has two books, The Battlefield to Boardroom and The Road to Utopia, and also runs a company called True North. So, and something he doesn't know that I was going to say is that we had a call yesterday, 9 a.m. in the morning, and he actually, in one of his conversations, one of the stories, he actually nearly brought me to tears, and he doesn't realise that, but I was nearly brought to tears at the front of his story. So wow. That's how motivational he is, just to let you know. So, absolute pleasure, Jay.
Nice to meet you, Scott. Thanks for being here.
You too, Jay. So the interview is going to be around go big or go home, like we discussed, and it's quite amusing because with the community, especially I know the student community, they have this little saying, it's like go hard and go home, and it's to do with drinking, but it's to do with drinking, but this is in business sense, not drinking, but it's all about go big or go home. So first of all, I think it's quite interesting, I already know this, but please could you explain why True North is called True North for your company? Because it's really interesting.
Okay, sure. I think every business that's going to be super successful starts off the back of a story. You know, we've only got to think of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak and the story behind Apple, and then the magnitude of what Apple's become. Yeah. To understand that behind every successful business, there's got to be something about it. Yeah. So I was keen to be able to have a story to be able to tell about True North, but something that resonated with as many people as we possibly could to help them understand where they are. So, in an instant, let's assume that your life plan, not the business plan, but your goal for life, was to trek to the North Pole. Now, we know that we can't simply jump into an aeroplane and fly over there for the weekend. We're going to have to trek. And for that, we probably need some training, we probably need the right equipment, and we probably don't want to do it on our own. We probably want to go as a team of people. So let's assume that you've done all the training, and you've bought all the equipment, you've got the team around you. Today's the day that you're going to set out on your trek to the North Pole. So you've got a good compass, and you wait for the needles to settle on the end, and then you religiously follow its course. Right, chaps, follow me! If you set off from here in Manchester and follow the N on the compass, you're going to find yourself in Scandinavia. Because you're actually following magnetic north. True north is 11 degrees to the east of magnetic north, and if you didn't know that, you'd invariably go on the wrong course. 1 degree at a time you'd be off course, and eventually you'd be 764 miles east of where you actually set out and wanted to be. And I think in business that's exactly the same. There are so many people that have this goal or this aspiration of what they want to achieve by the end of it, what they deem as a future success, be it £1 million turnover business or a house by the sea or a yacht in the harbour or whatever. Whatever is the long-term big goals are, and they set out with the training and the experience and the qualifications and a team around them of either people within the business or people helping and supporting along the way. They've got some qualifications, they've got all the right shiny equipment, and they set out and they're in the busyness of business. They're doing the trekking on a day-to-day basis, but they're not stopping and just recalibrating to be able to make sure that every single thing that they do is still actually keeping them on course to get them to where they want to be in the end. And invariably, 3 or 4 or 5 years down the line, they suddenly realise that they're nowhere closest to where they set out to want to be. They might have grown a relatively successful business, but it's now way off course to where they actually want to set out to be. And they need someone to be able to help point the needle back in the right direction and push them back on course, and that's what we do.
It's fantastic. And I heard a quote that hit me like a ton of bricks, is don't mistake busyness productivity, and that really took me back. And I just sort of, you mentioned it, you can be busy, and sort of heading, and look back at it by the sun, and you're much closer to your goal. So I think that's a really key thing to take away from that, is that business.
My real concern is that most people that go into their own business mistake how to spell the word business, and they move into this busyness.
Yes, love it.
As opposed to productivity.
Yeah.
And we've got to be able to leverage our time, or learn how to be able to leverage our time if we want to go beyond a self-employed, paying yourself to be able to stay out of an employment type role.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you are starting up, and what is your main focus is in the first year for a startup in any industry, what would you say is the main focus, and how can they manage their time smartly to be productive and not be busy, just be productive and stay focused?
Okay, well, it's ironically, it's an extension of what we were talking about on the phone yesterday.
Yeah.
Most people go into business because they've got this aspiration or this dream or this vision about what they want to achieve. And yet, as soon as they go into the business, they get involved in the doing, and they become so embroiled in actually the physical elements of doing the business that before you know it, they've become a slave to the business and what it requires of them, and they've created a self-employed job. And the problem with that is the fact that you end up working for it, and the moment you stop, it stops. And it doesn't matter how many team members you bring in to be able to help support you, you remain the main focus. So what I want to try and help other business owners to understand and achieve is that you've got to stop for a minute and decide, what do you want the future successful business to be? What does it need to look like? What's your role within the future business? And then work back to say, how quickly can you achieve that, and what do you need to do differently in order to be able to achieve it? Now, I know full well that my true north is going to continue well after I stop being the chair of the board or the managing director or the chief exec, or however you want to entitle it. I know that the legacy of the business is going to go on way beyond my involvement in it. And therefore my role is to be able to, one, create sustainability that enables it to happen, and two, find the right people that I can step out of the business, still take either dividend shares or a salary from it, and the business continues without me being present. And it's about understanding that I don't want anyone to spend any time at all building a business that the moment that you stop, it stops. I remember my father and his business, he ran a relatively successful business, but he could never afford to take more than a couple of weeks off a year on holiday, because as soon as he stopped working, the money stopped coming in. And that was just absurd. I want the sustainability or the significance or stability of the business to be reliant on the business's capability, not my involvement within it. And yet too many people in the startup phase don't consider the longer term option. They're so keen on trying to generate some money that any money is good enough. And the simple fact is that if people are paying you, then they will only continue to pay you whilst it's you. So doing what you're doing is exceptionally important with regards to building a brand that people buy into as opposed to an individual. And understanding that a pound is not a pound. A pound is a leverage tool that could be a whole multitude of things. Some people's money is far more valuable to you than others. So identifying as to who do you want to earn money from and how do you want to earn money is key in the startup phase, because otherwise you end up doing a lot of the doing.
Yeah. We spoke about that in our call as well, and you just rehashed it there. And that was a really reality check that I didn't even think about. When you said, if you count your business now, it lasts, and I'm like, no, it wouldn't, because I am the business. And even, I've really got to think now when I build a team is how can I find a way to run it itself. I think that's so important. And again, it's like what you said, it's getting people who, I think the culture in the business is quite important, having the right mindset, obviously believing the way you work and sort of the way the mentality of the company itself. So it's definitely going to be a learning process when I get to that stage. I'm excited for that stage, building up a team, but it's going to be a learning process to understand how can I leave the business for a month and go travelling or something, and it just works and there's no hiccups there.
It's quite funny. I'll quickly share a brief story if I may. My first business, we got to a stage where I thought that all the people and the processes were in place and this and the other. And an opportunity came along for me to be able to start working with somebody else in a separate business that looked really quite exciting. And I thought, you know what, if I don't test this now, I'll never know. So I contacted this client and said, yeah, I'm happy to come on board and work with you for 2 or 3 months. I've appointed, instead of my general manager, I've told them that I want them to be able to start running the business on a day-to-day basis and really take control of it. And I said to Sharon at the time, I'm not going to come back into the business on a day-to-day basis from 1st of January onwards.
Right.
Phone me when you need me. I'm available on the end of the phone if you need me, but I'm going to be busy with Alan and we're going to be doing something else for a while. Phone me when you need me. And it wasn't until I was laying on a beach in Portugal in July and I realised the phone had never rang that I started to realise that the business was just as successful without me in it than it was with me in it. Now, interestingly enough, I started to get cold feet and panic that maybe the business isn't there at all and she's never phoned because the phone's off the hook. So I desperately went back to work in the August to find out what was going off and this and the other. And you know, the business was so successful, they'd recruited 2 people in my absence and I didn't even know about it.
Wow.
And that's when I suddenly realised that this process does work. You've got to get to a stage where the business is capable of sustaining itself, even if you're not present within it.
Absolutely. No, 100%. I think that's so important, and definitely a big learning curve for sort of later in the stage of starting. It's definitely a learning curve to take on board. And obviously, you've got to be smart with your time, and this is something I struggle as well. Is how do you stop worrying? And I'm going to swear just because it makes it. How do you stop worrying about stupid shit? Like, I think I find with my first year of startup is that it's so easy just to overthink things, even the small things like what people say. And, your image and just sort of every email, you can read into things in so many different ways. How do you just stop worrying about stupid shit that just has no relevance to the success of your business that you can just throw in there? How do you stop that?
The short answer is you don't.
Right.
The simple fact is that it doesn't matter how high up the scale you get, and don't get me wrong, I'm still very keen to be able to move forward and progress the business even further, but it doesn't matter how far through the business that you get, you never really stop worrying about stupid shit.
Yeah.
What you have to do is to be able to build a daily discipline that says, does this have any correlation to where I want to be? And if it doesn't, just simply put it to one side. Or create a gatekeeper, get a VA or something to be able to shield you from as much of that stuff as possible, so you're only having to deal with a minute amount of it yourself. But the simple fact is, have this constant daily question, is what I'm doing right now contributing to the growth and success or sustainability of my business? And if it's not, stop doing it. Is responding to an unpleasant tweet or an odd comment on Facebook, or something on Instagram that's caught your fancy, or a cute dog on YouTube, is that actually contributing to the growth and success and sustainability of my business? Because if it's not, simply stop doing it. The other thing that I did when I first started to learn this is I came up with what I call the carrot and stick. Dangle something in front of me that is a real inspiration, and say, if you do this, I'm prepared to give you that.
Okay.
Yeah? So if you're prepared not to troll around Facebook for an hour a day, every day, like I used to when I first set up in business, if you don't do that for a month, then I'm prepared to reward you by having this at the end of it. That's the carrot. Something to drive you towards changing your behaviour. However, I also operate with the stick, and I'm talking about a big stick. And that's, what are you prepared to penalise yourself for if you don't stick to the new rules? So one of the things that I did, interestingly enough, when we were talking as you were setting up about the professionalism of the setup that you've got here with regards to the mic and the camera and the consideration that you've put into sourcing the right equipment. So one of the things that I wanted to do when we started being able to run our lives was I wanted a decent camera. And I sourced around and I found the camera that everyone was talking about, but it was £800. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, I'm just starting out. That's a big investment. I can't really justify 800 quid at the moment. Okay, so what discipline do I need to find that if I reward myself at 90 days, the reward, the work that I do differently over 90 days, what could I do that would generate an additional 800 quid to that we're currently doing. And I found that picking the phone up when it's not ringing and dial out and talk to people was more likely to convert more people, to generate more clients, to generate more business. So I made a promise I was going to call somebody new every day for 90 days. And as long as I called a new person, whether they converted or not, it wasn't about the results, it was about the change in discipline.
Right, okay.
As long as I called a new person, had a prospective conversation with a new person every day for 90 days, on the 90th day, the business would buy the camera I wanted. Okay? However, I also decided the big stick thing, that on the 90th day, the business would still spend £800 whether I did it or not.
Okay.
But if I didn't do it, and I broke my habit, I would gift the £800 to somebody else who'd done something good for them or for somebody else.
Right, okay.
The business was going to spend 800 quid in 90 days.
Okay.
I was either going to benefit or somebody else was going to benefit. It's up to you. And do you know what? For £800 and a business that wasn't generating that much money at the time, I wanted to be the rewarder of the receiver of that.
Yeah.
So I did my calls, I made my money, and ironically we got enough money in the bank in about 72 days in order to be able to go out and buy my camera.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating, that. I mean, that pretty much answers some of my questions, actually, because I was going to actually discuss about habits and building a habit, and I think that is such a beautiful way, the way you did that. Because I'm reading a book at the moment by Charles Duhigg about habits and sort of how they form in our brains and everything. Just try to understand some of the like, bad ones. And it's just really good to hear that, because that pretty much does answer, which is how we create good habits. And at the end of the day, I think you do need incentive. But then that you need that discipline as well.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, we will fail sometimes. We're not always going to keep to it. That consistency and effort is just so difficult.
But the consistency from the business perspective is just as important. The business was going to invest £800. Where it invested was determined by my actions.
Right.
Yeah. So the business has a sustainability to it, and I have a personal responsibility to the business to be able to provide.
Right.
So the other thing is stopping and taking note, and I think this is just equally as important, that if you set even a small milestone, even to be able to change a small behaviour, if you set that and you hit it, you have to reward yourself. You have to take some time out, even if it's just to be able to go out, buy a decent coffee and watch a movie one night. It's not about the size of investment, it's about understanding that the only way to continue to change behaviour is to reward good behaviour and penalise bad behaviour, discipline bad behaviour, in order that we live by a carrot and stick mentality. Because that's just humanity.
And it's just keeping to that, isn't it? Because I think that is a great way that is the simple way to look at it, isn't it? And it's just making sure you're disciplined in yourself. And I think you mentioned about maybe getting someone on to make you accountable for like a VA or an admin. And I've been looking into that recently, actually, and getting accountability partners out there. Actually, they'll keep you to what I've said. So I found that's really useful to sort of help with sort of start with disciplining myself. It's really key.
Okay.
And there's there's a Navy SEAL. Have you heard of Joko?
Oh, very much so, yes.
Yeah, he's quite big, and he actually brought out the book on discipline equals freedom. So I was just quite interested in that, and how you just discussed how I believe that discipline, once you build up that habit building, I think it does build that discipline.
Well, it's interesting because the more times that you do it, the more frequent it becomes. I came from a military career of 14 years where we disciplined ourselves on everything. I mean, I retaught myself how to brush my teeth. I retaught myself how to polish my shoes. I retaught myself how to iron a shirt. We discipline ourselves in everything, and we constantly try and improve, just minutely improve on every single little thing that we do, in order to be able to say what's the best I can possibly be at this. When there's 400 guys all in the cubicles, if you like, and you're all sat brushing your teeth trying to determine who's got the whitest teeth, who's got the quickest brushing, who's got the best brush. It was just competition to the max.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise as to how impactful that was going to be on being able to help set and challenge personal beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. And something you mentioned there was that it was all about those little gains, those marginal gains. And I know you mentioned about Kaizen's model of philosophy, and I actually interestingly read a book, Black Box Thinking.
Okay, yeah.
And that does get really heavily about marginal gains, and I found it really interesting to learn. So, do you want to explain sort of why you think that's so important, Kaizen's sort of marginal gains of business rather than just going for the big success?
No worries at all. My big concern, and it suffers with many business owners, is they often spend a lot of time trying to compare themselves against their competitors, or against their friends or their colleagues or other people who are in business or other people in the same industry or the same sector. And the simple fact is, none of that matters. What really matters is, what are you doing? Is it contributing towards your goals?
Yeah.
And what are you going to do on a personal development basis today to be able to make sure that today you are better at doing it than you were yesterday?
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean this to sound condescending, but it's great to hear some of the books that you're talking about reading and some of the learning that you're doing, because I can assure you, I wouldn't be where I am today if it hadn't been that we've got a whole library of stuff that I get through on a frequent basis to check in with other people and the likes. But it's all about saying, what can I do today on every single aspect of my life, just to make that slight 1 degree tweak from what was I capable of, and what can I be capable of. And I guess the best example is if we go back in history and look at the 4-minute mile, when we talk about running for a distance. Now, interestingly, runners had run distance for a long, long time. You know, we're talking about thousands of years where there's been measured of people trying to run distance or speed. And we got to a point where no one believed that man would ever be capable of running a sub 4-minute mile. And so many people pushed it, so many people got close, but there was this perception that man would never be fast enough to run a sub 4-minute mile. And then you'll forgive me, but the name eludes me as to the first guy that ever did it. But somebody did a mile in 3 minutes 59.67 seconds, whatever. However, 17 people ran a sub 4-minute mile last year.
Oh, really? I did not know that.
It's all become quite not easy to do. I'm never saying it's going to be easy to do.
I could.
But ironically, as soon as you break a barrier, all of a sudden everybody else is saying, well, if it is capable of, can we do 3 minute 55 mile? And the boundary starts to move.
Yeah.
And it's about understanding that the only reasons that there are any boundaries in society at all is because somebody said we can't do that.
Yeah.
And the simple fact is, yet. What we've got to do is say, what can I do better today that makes me more capable of trying to achieve it tomorrow? You know, the first time I ever told you to do 1,000 press-ups, you looked at me and laughed. But if I said to you, what I want you to do today is I want you to do 1 press-up. And I want you to practice that every day for a week. And then next week, I want you to increase to 2 press-ups. And I want you to practice that for a week. And the next week, I want you to go to 3 press-ups. It's only going to take you 1,000 weeks to get to 1,000 press-ups. It's incremental improvements that continually push the boundaries. And before you know it, you'll be doing 1,000 press-ups on one hand with a cup of tea on your head whilst reading a book in the other hand. We can push boundaries all the time by not saying I'll never be able to get to 1,000, because the psychology is I'll never get there. It's how do I shave off 1/10 of a second or 100th of a second, and how do I keep practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing until I break the boundary and then set a new boundary. Zig Ziglar said, the only ways to prevent complacency is to learn to become comfortable at being uncomfortable. It's always about where's the boundary and how do I push it and push it and push it. Not other people's boundaries, my own boundaries. How do I improve myself?
100%. I think it can be difficult when you go through like the education system I've gone through, all the way through uni, college, school, I've done the whole works. And it's always there's an authority figure there, and it's like it's through a system, and you can do it this way, you can do it this way. And suddenly it's me, and sort of I'm deciding what I can and can't do, and it's that sort of freedom of your mind. But then there are times that you can't do that. You can't go speak up in front of 100 people or 50 people. It's mad. And then you do it and you embrace it. It works. It's just yeah, it's just learning how to fight that little yapping devil in your,
Very
in your
much.
head.
And don't get me wrong, it doesn't matter where you are in life, it doesn't matter where you are in business, you will always have that yapping dog. All you've got to do is train it. You've got to teach it how to put a muzzle on it and know when to release it and when not to.
Yeah.
It reminds me of a very quick story of my son. My son's exceptional at maths. My son's always been just ridiculously good at maths, all the way through school and college and everything. I mean, he will do 4-digit long division in his head in an instant. It's just mad maths,
incredible.
you know.
That is incredible.
But I remember him having a massive argument with his school maths teacher
Oh, really?
over maths. And he said to the teacher, you know, this 3-hour exam, he says, am I right in thinking that of the 100 questions that are being asked, that it starts off really easy and it gets more and more difficult, and the last few are really, really tough? And the guy said, well yes, says the top few questions, if you only answer those, you'll probably get an E in your GCSEs. And if you get through to about midway, you should be about a C grade. And if you get to the last few questions, it's on for an A and A+. So Bailey handed his maths paper back in again in 17 minutes. And the maths teacher went, what are you doing? He said, there's only, you've missed out 90 of the questions. And he went, yeah. He says, why am I wasting my time? He says, I can do all of the easy stuff, so I've just skipped it. I've just answered the top hardest questions. And again, it's about a system that says, no, we've got to have ticks in all the right boxes. And Bailey said, well, why waste my time? I can demonstrate to you, I can do the competent stuff, the really, really tough, clever stuff. Why do I need to show you how 1 and 1 is 2? Because ironically, in my eyes, 1 and 1 is 11. You've just got to put 1 plus 1 before it becomes 2.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. No doubt he had to go back and finish the exam. But,
yeah, ironically, Bailey's the one person that is exceptional at maths and had to do a reset.
That's an amazing story. But I do love it now, and absolutely, it's amazing. Going on then, sort of obviously we've spoken about habits and sort of how to break into discipline. What are sort of just a few bullet points of some good habits you recommend people need to really develop on a daily basis to be successful in business?
Okay. First of all, my nan is an incredible influence in my life still. I love her to bits and I spend a lot of time with her. She's well into her 90s now, and therefore it's important and crucial that I spend some time with my family. And I've often said to my nan, you know, she's been a widower for a long, long time now, and I've often said to her, I said, to what do you attribute the success that you've had in life and in business, and what is it about being in your mid-90s and still being as exceptional as you are, sort of thing, you know? And she said, I've never gone to bed before I've learnt something new. She said, I make a point of learning something new every single day. And I don't go to bed until I've decided I've learned it. So it's not about saying I've finished school so I don't need to bother anymore. It's not about going to university and then saying, well, I've got my degree so I don't need it anymore. I would say I've learned far more every day in life, in business, by sharing experiences like this, or reading books, or chatting to people, than I ever did from college and uni and that structure of how to get a tick in a box and a certificate. So, firstly, a daily discipline of what are you going to learn today, and what are you going to learn that's important to you right now. Now, just to put a caveat in there, there are some people that I meet that are learning junkies, and they spend all of their time out there learning and not implementing. And that's just a waste also. Unless you're going to go into teaching, maybe you can make a profession of it. But it's about what are you going to learn today that you can implement tomorrow and make the biggest impact the day afterwards. Yeah. It's learning the right stuff at the right time to have the right impact on you and your business. So first of all, learn.
Yeah.
Learn.
Have a habit of learning.
Have a habit of daily learning. I say learning equals earning. Because the more you learn, the more you earn.
Yeah.
The other thing is the people that you surround yourself with are hugely important and impactful on the level of your success. And what I mean by that is there's a book from Jim Rohn, there's a quote from Jim Rohn as well that says you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with So pick wisely. If you are the best person within the 5 people that you hang around with most, it's time to say, thanks very much, nice knowing you.
Yeah.
I'm off to find a new period of friends, a new section of friends to hang around with. I'm not saying dump everyone, I'm saying just be cautious of who's your influence. So I believe that within your 5 core people, if we're talking about a business perspective, I've got titles for all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Who is your key influence in sales? Who do you go to if you want to learn more about how to sell and negotiate and hustle, I think is the new term these days. But who is your key influence? Who is the person that you could turn to or learn from? Or who is the big inspiration for sales? Who's the key influential person for marketing? Who's the one that's out there and doing it and fresh and a little bit sick? Who's out there and doing things differently? You say, I'm hip, I might be old, but I'm hip. But who's the one that's cutting edge in marketing and PR and that type of stuff? Okay. Who's the one that's cutting edge in finance, in money and margins and tax and understanding how to be able to manage and leverage money to be able to make it work for you? Who's the key influence in HR or legals or PR or something around the... So number 4 is HR and legals. It's who's the person that your key influence are, that if you need to be able to get some ideas or some guidance with regards to are you on the right side of things, you're not going to break any rules and get into any trouble. And fifthly, I'm bound to say this, but who's your coach? Who's the one that's pushing you further and further than you've ever done before? Who's the one that's holding you to account? Who's the one that's pushing you to be able to make those big decisions as opposed to sticking on the mediocrity lab of here and there? But I believe that if you can pick somebody of influence that you value, that you are inspired by in those 5 key areas, it'll make the biggest difference to your daily disciplines and the success of your business in the future.
Huge. Yeah, no, I've heard a lot about building your networks, and it's something that I try to go into a lot of meetups and running events. I try to build that sort of inner network. It's kind of, I don't know who, I guess naturally it'd be sort of my family I hang around with most of the time and friends, but I'm trying to sort of build that inner network. And I think I like how you sort of just had individuals that have to be great at this, and this. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to go away and sort of start pinpointing who they are, and maybe even organising a meetup and clash our heads together.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lovely story by a guy called Steve who's not too far away in Media City, and he said, I know that the 13 people sat around this table today have got the capacity to generate something exceptional. I just don't know what it is yet. So what we need to do is we need to collaborate and agree that the 13 of us are going to spend as much time together as possible just doing stuff and bouncing ideas off each other, because I know that if we spend enough time together, magic will happen. Well, I'm not going to mention his name or his brand, but I will talk about that in the 6 years that followed, they grew collectively to 106 staff and 738 million followers on YouTube.
Wow, fair enough.
He's 24 years old and lives in Media City. And it's simply a case of being able to understand that when you find the right people, magic happens. You've just got to find the right people and spend enough time with them, sharing ideas and collaborating and helping other people to develop on the basis that collectively we will all grow far more than any one of us individually.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's being self-aware and sort of taking the image away and just accepting I'm not an expert in everything. And I think that I would say that's sort of a very common thing with starting up entrepreneurs. Did you feel like you have to do everything because you're like, oh, it's my business, I've got money. So I was like, which is just it's rubbish because you won't be good at all these areas. But I think it's very difficult not to do because it's sort of you're a baby at the start and it's kind of hard to control everything. But I think with it's just a bit of a learning curve that I know I had to go through and I went through that, and now I'm sort of much more willing to say, yeah, I'm not good at that.
Well, there's a quote from Duncan Bannatyne in his autobiography that said, at 38 years old, I was still a bum. By the time I was 40, I was a millionaire. Wow. And the only thing I did differently is I learned to hang around with people that are cleverer than me.
I'm sold. I'm sold. I mean, if that doesn't sell the importance of having your network, I don't know what we are. I mean, that really, wow, that just said it in a nutshell, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, very powerful. Amazing. So I mean, I know I'm a little concerned for time, so I don't really want to rattle on too long. I think just because this is quite a funny thing, we actually started our last conversation, we'll sort of finish off with is your views on the word entrepreneur. I just want to do this because I know people will find it interesting, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So what do you think of the word when I say to you, I'm an entrepreneur? What do you believe that means, and what do you honestly believe I actually am?
Okay, so let's take personality out of it, so no one gets a crushed ego or something.
Yeah.
My biggest concern about the word entrepreneur is the fact that people on social media particularly have almost tried to create a fashion out of the term entrepreneur.
I agree.
Now don't get me wrong, my True North, my coaching business, is specifically designed for entrepreneurs and business owners. And I think there's a massive difference between the two, and we want to be able to support both, but we support them in a significantly different manner. You see, I believe that there are many people out there that might use the term entrepreneur, but in actual fact are realistically business owners, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But a business owner is someone that's either created a business that they are a key part of, that they have built a lifestyle around what they do. They're not in the busyness of business maybe, but the business is them and they are the business. If the business stops, they stop, and if they stop, the business stops. Whereas an entrepreneur is about understanding, seeing an opportunity, and being able to, how do you facilitate that niche that they can drop into, interact with, change or modify or tweak or disrupt an industry or a sector or a business, bring in people or systems or processes to be able to put the things together and then move on to the next exciting thing and still benefit from the financial rewards they had from the impact that they had on that business. Now, I talk about the fact that I've had 4 different businesses of my own, but I would only consider the last ones to be entrepreneurial. I think I've become an entrepreneur by learning that although I've got businesses that are continuing to run, I didn't want to be part of them any longer, and I needed to change my mindset as to I'm not the most important person in the business, to be able to recruit people that are better at doing the job than you are. And all you've done is you've found them an opportunity to come and work with you and created an environment and a culture and a team where people want to be together and do stuff. That for me is entrepreneurial, as opposed to what we see from, don't get me wrong, massive admiration for Gary Vaynerchuk and the likes, but he calls people out and simply says, this word that people use isn't appropriate. Entrepreneurship isn't, flash cars and private jets and private holidays and the likes. Entrepreneurship is blood, sweat and tears behind the facade of the business. It's all about all the work that you do behind the scenes that enable the stuff that we deliver to the public is of value, has resilience and legacy beyond our interactive with it. And for me, that's an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think sort of the common where the misconception would be as well is I find it funny when people say, oh, well, that was an overnight success. Oh, it went trendy, didn't it? And it must say, when overnight success, it's like, you don't understand that person could be knocking us for the past 8 years. Like, you only know this person in the past month because Snapchat went crazy and that. You don't understand what, and it's just funny how people say, oh, it's easy for him. It's like, he could have been doing it for the past 20, 30 years.
There's a lovely quote actually we'll probably close on from Warren Buffett. Now don't get me wrong, Warren Buffett is the second richest man in the world, second only to our dear friend from Microsoft. But Warren Buffett, about 2 or 3 years ago, 2015, he launched his 174th business. And it took $100,000 in the first hour of business. And the Washington Post interviewed Warren Buffett and said, congratulations Warren, another overnight success. And he simply said, yes, and this one only took 19 years in the planning.
Well, there it is. That's the simple answer.
And the simple fact is that whether you're Warren Buffett or Warren Nobody, the fact is that it's the blood, sweat and tears that you put into the prep the deciding as to where you want to take it, the goals that you want to be able to have for the long-term achievements that will determine as to the speed and success that you actually achieve, and whether you hit a glass ceiling because you've forgotten or missed something out of the way.
I think that's an amazing way to end. It couldn't be any better. Is there anything you'd like to say about True North? Because I know how inspirational True North is and how amazing. Obviously, I mean, this is a free consultation as it is. I'm getting all this free, and obviously you are as well. So I've learned so much. You've realigned a lot of things that I need to change. So please do, if you need to let the community know, anyone know about anything you're getting up to.
That's kind. Thanks very much. So I'm the founder of My True North, the UK's leading ethical coaching company. If you want to come and visit us on the website, it's simply www.mytruenorth.biz. We have a Facebook community which is My True North UK, and I'm also the founder of the Add a Zero Business Challenge, where we challenge a business owner. What would you need to do differently to be able to add a zero to either your business turnover or your personal disposable income, or both? And then we have an 8-step system to be able to help people realign what they do in order to be able to add a zero. Look out for us, and I look forward to being able to have a chat to you soon.
Absolutely, and all the links will be down below, and I'll connect to all episodes. It'll be absolutely fine, all be good. Thank you very much, Jay. It was an absolute pleasure. I hope I haven't taken too much of your time, because so much value from that, like so much, and I've learned even more from that chat's prior to it. It's just crazy, because that's why I love doing these interviews. It's not just the value to the community, but I learned so much from it as well, so it gains a lot of value from it as well.
Thanks so much, Scott.
Absolutely, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know I did, and I'm sure you did as well. We'll be back with another industry leader interview. We're looking to bring them out every Saturday, so we'll be bringing out them regularly now. Please do subscribe to my channel at Scott Mears Radio Now, my Facebook at Scott Mears Entrepreneur, and my Twitter at Scott Mears _. As always, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again, Jay, and we'll see you next time. Bye.